Across Central Asia and the Iranian plateau, the Sogdian cities once flourished as bustling crossroads of the Silk Road. Renowned for their mastery in bridging languages and cultures, the Sogdians acted as the vital link between East and West, enabling the flow of goods, knowledge, and traditions. In the lively marketplaces of Samarkand, Bokhara, and other Sogdian centers, merchants from China, India, Persia, and even Rome bartered and exchanged treasures. Yet, despite their indispensable role in world commerce, the Sogdian trade system crumbled with shocking speed, almost overnight. By the 5th century CE, the Sogdians had risen to immense prosperity. They were celebrated merchants, artisans skilled in weaving and metalwork, and shrewd diplomats. Their influence stretched far, as they cultivated alliances with Persians, Turks, and Chinese, while their language evolved into the Silk Road's common tongue. Their caravans carried silk, spices, metals, and artistic innovations across continents. Cities like Samarkand were admired for their impressive architecture, dynamic markets, and vibrant cultural life. Yet by the close of the 8th century, this thriving network had all but vanished, leaving cities abandoned. What triggered such a dramatic collapse? The most common explanation points to the expansion of the Arab Caliphate. By the mid-8th century, Islamic forces surged into Central Asia, seizing Sogdian lands. The arrival of a new political and economic order reshaped the region, disrupting the carefully woven Sogdian routes. Under the powerful and centralized caliphate, trade priorities shifted and the once essential Sogdian middlemen were sidelined. But even this account feels incomplete. The decline was not gradual, it was total. Markets disappeared, caravan paths dissolved, and once bustling cities seemed to wither within a generation. It was as if life itself had drained away from these hubs of commerce and culture. Was this purely the result of conquest? Or had other forces already weakened the Sogdians? Some historians point to internal fractures, shifting political alliances, power struggles, and economic instability that may have undermined their resilience before the Arabs arrived. Evidence suggests growing divisions within the Sogdian states, making them vulnerable to outside pressures. Others highlight the role of environmental stress. Central Asia's delicate ecosystems have always been sensitive to climate shifts. A prolonged drought, the redirection of rivers, or soil exhaustion might have crippled the agricultural foundation that sustained their wealth. Without that base, the ability of cities to function as trade centers may have crumbled long before the Arab campaigns. Still, the speed of the downfall remains unnerving. The Sogdians were experts at adaptation, having survived centuries of shifting powers along the Silk Road. Why then did they collapse so completely? Some speculative theories suggest an external catastrophe, a plague, a devastating natural disaster, or even a cosmic impact, may have accelerated their decline. Could a meteor strike or other sudden event have destabilized the fragile balance supporting their civilization? Such ideas remain unproven, yet they linger because the mystery itself feels too abrupt for ordinary explanations. Even a widely accepted narrative of Arab conquest leaves gaps. Cities like Samarkand and Bokhara were central arteries of the Silk Road. How could such vital hubs simply vanish from the global stage? The mystery of the Sogdian downfall is a chilling reminder of how quickly history can pivot. A civilization once standing at the nexus of East and West, vibrant, connected, and indispensable, faded into obscurity almost without warning. Was it conquest, internal weakness, environmental collapse, or an unknown force hidden in time's shadows? The ruins of Samarkand and Bokhara endure as mute testimony to their rise and fall. As we reflect on their fate, more questions emerge than answers. What truly extinguished the Sogdian network? And what other forgotten secrets of the Silk Road remain buried, waiting for rediscovery? The enigma of the Sogdians continues to provoke fascination, a silent puzzle echoing through the deserts and mountains of Central Asia, reminding us of history's fragile and fleeting nature. Shifting our attention from the Mediterranean world to the cradle of Mesopotamia, we uncover one of antiquity's most perplexing mysteries, the abrupt downfall of the Akkadian Empire. Established by Sargon of Akkad around 2334 BCE, it became the world's first true empire, uniting Sumerians, Akkadians, and other groups under a single rule. For generations, it thrived in the fertile crescent between the Tigris and Euphrates. Yet, almost as quickly as it rose, this mighty power unraveled. What renders its decline especially haunting is the legend known as the Curse of Sargon, a supposed divine judgment that some claim hastened the empire's end. At its height, Akkad was celebrated for its military dominance, innovative architecture, and advances in written communication. Sargon, its founder, commanded a realm stretching from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea, binding diverse peoples into one political order. His capital stood as a beacon of authority, a model of early statecraft. But within mere decades of his reign, the empire's once thriving cities began to falter. What triggered such a swift collapse? The most widely accepted explanation is environmental catastrophe. Around 2200 BCE, evidence points to a severe, prolonged drought. Archaeological and climatological studies suggest that Mesopotamia's rivers diminished, devastating agricultural production. Failed harvests and dwindling water reserves destabilized the economy, sparking famine and unrest. As social order weakened, political systems crumbled. Yet, while environmental stress offers part of the answer, it does not capture the entire picture. Layered over this historical puzzle is the legend of a divine curse. Later inscriptions describe Sargon's descendants as having been condemned by the gods, punished for arrogance, conquest, or overreach. These accounts speak of the curse of Sargon, a supernatural decree said to doom his line and his empire. Could this tale reflect more than myth? In ancient societies, disasters were often framed as signs of divine displeasure. For the Akkadians, a devastating drought might not have been seen as a natural disaster, but rather as retribution from their gods. Still, how much weight should we give to this mystical dimension? Was the curse simply a way for people to rationalize overwhelming hardship? Or could belief in it itself have influenced social collapse, shaping behavior, morale, and governance? The drought hypothesis itself is not without complications. Many scholars argue the empire's decline stemmed from multiple pressures converging at once. Political rivalries, external invasions, and disrupted trade networks may have weakened Akkadian resilience. It is possible their rulers failed to adapt, mishandling crises and accelerating the fall. Instead of pure divine wrath, the empire's destruction may have been a blend of environmental stress and human mismanagement. Intriguingly, ancient texts portray the curse of Sargon as more than superstition. They describe it as woven into destiny itself. To later generations, the fall of Akkad was not random misfortune, but the unfolding of prophecy. The curse may have been used as a narrative tool, reframing collapse as inevitable and divinely ordained, beyond the power of mortals to resist. Today, the Akkadian downfall remains unsolved. Was prolonged drought the decisive blow? Did internal weakness and external threats deliver the final strike? Or did belief in divine punishment transform disaster into fate? Perhaps all three were entwined in ways we can never fully disentangle. The Akkadian Empire, humanity's first great experiment in empire building, rose with brilliance and fell with shocking speed. Its ruins and inscriptions still whisper of greatness, but its sudden collapse is cloaked in mystery. What hidden truths remain buried beneath Mesopotamian soil? And how many other civilizations have disappeared under forces they could not control? The enigma of Akkad reminds us that history's turning points are rarely simple. They are layered, fragile, and at times unfathomable. Journeying into the past takes us to southern Africa, where a once flourishing civilization thrived, and left behind remains that still mystify scholars. Great Zimbabwe, a city of immense power and influence, stood as a triumph of culture and engineering. Its monumental stone constructions, most notably the hill complex and the celebrated Great Enclosure, still endure as silent reminders of a vanished golden age. Despite its magnificence, this urban center was inexplicably deserted when it was at the height of prosperity, and the reasons for its abandonment remain uncertain. Dating from roughly the 11th to the 15th century CE, Great Zimbabwe served as the nucleus of a vast dominion. At its zenith, thousands of inhabitants filled its boundaries, while it functioned as a political capital, an economic hub, and a sacred heartland. The people built massive stone walls without mortar, their craftsmanship so precise that not even a blade of grass could fit into the joints. These enduring structures reveal the architectural mastery of a civilization whose influence extended far across southern Africa. This was a society of wealth, ritual, and sophistication. Yet, during the 1400s, Great Zimbabwe was deserted. The precise cause of this mass departure is still cloaked in mystery. Excavations uncover evidence of a thriving and worldly community, trade artifacts from Persia and China, sacred relics, and finely made ceramics all signal prosperity and cultural refinement. Nevertheless, its residents disappeared without leaving clear explanation. What force drove such a sudden evacuation? One prominent hypothesis points to environmental upheaval. Scholars suggest that severe droughts or long-term climate changes destabilized food production. Since the society depended heavily on farming and cattle, such shifts could have triggered famine and resource exhaustion. Traces of overgrazing, soil depletion, and widespread deforestation support this view. As the land deteriorated and resources dwindled, the population may have been compelled to move elsewhere. However, environmental crises usually result in gradual decline, yet Great Zimbabwe's abandonment appears to have been abrupt. Could there have been other forces at work? Some theories highlight political turmoil and internal discord. Rival factions might have fought for control, leading to social fragmentation and weakening the state. Archaeological signs, such as smashed pottery and indications of conflict, hint at possible unrest. Was the downfall born of civil strife that drove people to flee? Another line of thought considers external pressures. The waning of Great Zimbabwe coincided with the ascent of other regional powers, such as the Matapa Kingdom, which may have redirected lucrative trade away from the city. The loss of economic dominance could have eroded the city's strength. Some speculate about invasion, though archaeological proof is scarce. Were external aggressors involved, or did shifting regional trade patterns simply undermine its stability? A few fringe ideas go further. Some propose that the disappearance of Great Zimbabwe's people is tied to early encounters with Europeans, though this notion is largely dismissed, as the city was deserted well before Europeans reached the area. Others suggest spiritual or religious motives. Perhaps the population relocated in response to new beliefs, religious reforms, or a collective search for sacred renewal. Although this remains speculative, it cannot be fully dismissed. The stone monuments themselves also fuel debate. Some believe that the walls and enclosures were constructed not only for political or defensive purposes, but also as ritual or ceremonial spaces. If so, their desertion could reflect a profound cultural or spiritual transformation. The Great Enclosure, with its towering walls and enigmatic purpose, may symbolize both worldly power and deeper mysteries. Could abandoning the city have been a symbolic act tied to religious or cultural shifts? The riddle of Great Zimbabwe's abandonment continues to intrigue historians, archaeologists, and explorers of the past. Was its collapse the result of climate stress, political fragmentation, or economic displacement? Or was there a deeper, hidden truth still buried beneath its ruins? The saga reminds us that the mysteries of antiquity often resist definitive answers. The fall of Great Zimbabwe challenges us to ask, what became of its people? What secrets remain sealed within its stones? Though time may have hidden the answers, the questions endure, awaiting rediscovery by those who dare to search.